Hey, yo, everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review. And do you know what today is? Today is Wednesday, Comic Book Day, the best day of the week. And that means I am going to be talking about my comic load for the week. Now, this is a very big week for me. One of the titles are actually going to be getting canceled, so we'll talk about that title and we'll talk about the issue itself. But first and foremost, let's talk about Batman The Dark Knight, issue number 8. And again, all these are going to be issue number 8, I believe. Uh, this is kind of a transition issue because next issue is going to be part of the Night of the Owls, which is actually going to feature Red Robin. Which is interesting because Red Robin currently has his hands tied in Teen Titans, but let's not worry about it. The basic concept of this is Batman is going after the Wonderland Gang, which is basically Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and the Mad Hatter. And this is really the first major appearance of the Mad Hatter that we've had not only in the New 52, but in quite a long time. I can't even remember the last time we've read about the Mad Hatter. Maybe Paul Dini's run on Detective, or maybe he was in Private Casebook, but I forget. Anyways, I like Mad Hatter as a character. I just don't think he's been utilized all that well. It also shows on the cover here the White Rabbit, but she does not show up in this. And I thought there was going to be some connection between the White Rabbit and the Wonderland Gang because, you know, they kind of go hand in hand. But she does not show up in this. Basic story is that Mad Hat is controlling people and he's causing people to kill themselves. For example, on a train, everyone on the train murders each other. So, what does Batman have to do? He has to go out and, of course, stop the Mad Hatter. While this is going on, Commissioner Gordon is forced to go see a psychiatrist also to deal with his problems because, well, everyone's against Commissioner Gordon. But like I said, it's kind of a transition issue, so it's going to be a self-contained story. So we'll go into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. The art was good. I think, I was confused at first because it said Ed Ben's in there, but I think it was David Finch that did this. Maybe I just read it wrong. But the art was good. I like the fact that we used the Mad Hatter in this. And the overall, for a self-contained story, it was actually paced very nicely. Bad is I felt as though the White Rabbit should have been used, and in addition to that, I felt as though there should have been I think the Wonderland Gang, it should have been a bigger arc than just one individual issue. And the Mad Hatter really didn't come off as intimidating or anything. So, besides that, this was actually a pretty decent issue for Batman the Dark Knight. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Transition issue, but pretty decent one to say the least. Okay, next we're going to be jumping into All-Star Western issue number 8. Really been liking this series, and where we last left off, Jonah Hex and Nighthawk, along with Cinnamon, have decided to team up to take down basically conspirators, a gang of criminals. And in order to infiltrate them, Jonah Hex goes to fight one of their people in a pit fight, for the lack of a better term, and it is this woman right here. And they have quite a bit of a fight. Quite a bit of fight. But it comes to the point where Jonah Hex actually is able to infiltrate the organization. We find that there's more than a small group of 3 people controlling this organization. There's a whole lot of them. There's about 7 of them. So Jonah Hex needs to infiltrate them and basically take them down from within. While this goes on, Dr. Arkham gets himself in trouble because, well, he's Dr. Arkham. That's like his thing. He's Dennis the Menace. Doesn't want to be, he just is. And we also get the Cinnamon Nighthawk backup, which was enjoyable. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. The fight scene was good in this. The writing was good. The backup issue was very good, and I think the dialogue was just so witty and fun, especially the last thing Jonah Hex says about Dr. Arkham in this. Bad, I really can't see any bad about this at all. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. Not quite 5 out of 5 because it didn't blow me away, but it was still a really good issue. All-Star Western, really some of the best of the DCU right now. Next, we have Aquaman issue number 8. This deals with the Others, and the Others are basically a team, for lack of a better term, that Aquaman was part of before he was Aquaman before he was even part of the Justice League. And we get to learn a little bit about Aquaman's history. This is not a secret origin story, but it does give us a little bit more about his history. And the unique thing about the others is all of them have a golden item. For example, one of them has bracers right there. Another one has a necklace, a medallion. Another one has a helmet. And Aquaman obviously has a trident. And they're all part of a ancient Atlantean armor, which is really kind of cool. It kind of brings that trident, and it gives us history on that trident, which I think is actually really cool with Aquaman. So we get a bit of backstory with Aquaman and how it all ties to Black Manta too. Good. The story is just so intriguing and so fun. We get to dip a little bit in Aquaman's past, and it kind of reforms Aquaman. I like how Mira copes with what's going on right here. Very Mira-esque. We get a nice, good backstory, which is, like I said, I like how the Trident is being tied together with everything. Bad, I don't know if this is necessarily a bad, but I feel as though these issues are short of Aquaman. Maybe it's just because it's really good and I'm reading through it really quickly, but it felt very short. Uh, but that's all perception. It's not really the comic's fault. On a whole, whether or not you should get it, definitely. I'll give this a 4 out of 5. This was really fun. Aquaman turning out to be one of the best of the DCU, along with, like I said, All Star Western. What I like about Aquaman is this: is when you look at the DCU, look at, you have this very superhero based heroes, you have the sci-fi based heroes, and then you have the mystical based heroes. And I was talking to my friend about this. Wonder Woman is the Greek mythology mythic hero, where Aquaman has his own mythology and ancient mythology with Atlantis, and there's a lot more leeway with it. So, really fun stuff. Pick up Aquaman. Next, we're going into Voodoo issue number 8. This is the big standoff between Voodoo and Priscilla. And Priscilla is the original, where Voodoo is the clone. Last issue had a shocking ending to it with the death of Blackjack, and this issue just had, if I could say one word, intensity. It's basically a standoff for most of the issue, but it comes down to Voodoo versus Voodoo. Um, However, the Blackhawks and the Black Razors get into this, and they break up the fight, but not without one of the Voodoos getting away. Whether it's Priscilla or Voodoo, Evil Voodoo, you have to read and see. If you're reading this with Blackhawks, it's not necessary, but I recommend reading Blackhawks first, because Blackhawks issue number 8 takes place before this. Good art, phenomenal. The tension really felt nice. The standoff between the two of them were good. The methodology between the two of them good. And I really like how the story was resolved. Not really the story, but how the issue was resolved. Bad. I would have liked a little bit more of a fight between the two Voodoos. There's tension and there's confrontation, but I would have liked a little bit more of a fight. But besides that, Voodoo's turning out to be one of the best of the new DC 52. When it comes to incorporating the Wildstorm stuff, if I had to look at this or Grifter or anything else, I would have to say I would pick this over the rest of the lot. I would give this also a 4 out of 5. This was a good issue. Uh, didn't wow me, but it was still really fun. Pick up. Had to pause for a second there. On to Savage Hawkman issue number 8, which I believe is the last issue before our good friend Rob Liefeld takes over as writer. Um, Basically, the story in this is, little pause right there. Basically, the story in this is Hawkman is helping out this girl right here who is an alien. Her name escapes me. It's like Askana or Aska, or it sounds kind of like Alaska, or it sounds like Aska from End of Ava, but name, I think it's Askana. Anyways, he helps her out because technically, apparently, people from her planet's hunting her down, and she needs help, and Hawkman's the only one that can help her. Blah blah blah. He feels like he needs to help her because he's a good guy at heart, despite the fact that he crushes people's heads. So he goes to help her. However, while they're hunting the bad guys, who's hunting them? That's the real question. This is the end of Tony Daniels' run, and he leaves it off on the note that he wants to leave it off on. Onto the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good, thank you. Thank you, almighty Stephen Colbert. Thank you very much. anyone, just thank someone. There is action up the wazoo. Hawkman beats people up like crazy in this. There is fighting, there is fighting, there is fighting, and that is what I wanted from Hawkman. See, the people tend to misunderstand Hawkman as a character. Hawkman's very easy to understand. He is Wolverine mixed with Indiana Jones. Plain, flat, and simple. He is Wolverine with Indiana Jones. There's not that much that you can't understand from that. Some people try to write him one way, some people try to write him another way. No, he's Wolverine mixed with Indiana Jones. So there needs to be some ripping and tearing, and we get that in this issue. You know, this is kind of a transition issue, end of the Tony Daniel writing Hawkman, and he kind of ends it on a good note. Um, bad I can't really say there's too much bad other than the fact that it really didn't impress me. The aliens weren't really that impressive, and I really didn't care for this girl right here. Whether or not you should get it, this was actually pretty good for Hawkman. I will give it 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. It's just a shame that we get this issue with good quality later in the lifespan for Hawkman. It's a pity. So yeah, 3.5. Um, coming on and look, coming on. Uh, coming up next is Blackhawks issue number 8, the end of Blackhawks in the return of Mother Machine. Basically, the girl Koichi or Kochi or her name is a bit difficult to pronounce. She has the nanites in her body, and Mother Machine takes over her. So it's basically the Blackhawks versus Mother Machine in control of the Blackhawks equipment. So it's basically the Blackhawks versus their equipment. Uh, I'm not going to go too much into the story or how it ends, but it kind of does give that sign off to the Blackhawks. You have a feeling that the Blackhawks are they're not gone from the DCU, but they're gonna you won't see them for a bit. They might work in the shadows here and there, but yeah, it feels like the end for the Blackhawks. Even though Lincoln, the leader of the Blackhawks, showed up in Voodoo, and I'm sure we're gonna see more of him. He showed up in a lot of things. He showed up in Mr. Terrific last week too, uh, or not last week, but 2 weeks ago. I feel as though the Blackhawks will always be present, but I do believe that this is kind of the end for them for a bit, just for some time. I'm not really going to go into the good, the bad, or whether or not you should get it. I really kind of want to talk about this as a whole. The issue itself, I would probably give a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Had a good ending, but it was a little silly with the whole having to go in there and fight Mother Machine. I really didn't like Mother Machine as a villain, so that's probably why. Blackhawks, for me, as a comic, had a lot of potential. It was kind of the G.I. Joe of the DCU, and it's a pity that it didn't get off the ground because it had a good cast of characters that worked well together. A great look to it. I even liked the new look to Lady Blackhawk, uh, and it had a great feel to it. It's a shame the stories didn't get off the ground. But yeah, 2.5 out of 5. Next, we have The Flash, issue number 8. Last we left off, Flash ran so fast because he wanted to open a wormhole to get Iris West back, and he goes basically into the Speed Force. And there he meets up with Turbine. Turbine is basically a man from the 1940s who piloted a plane in World War II who got sucked into the Speed Force. And basically, he explains the Speed Force and he explains how he got his powers and how to get out of the Speed Force and how it connects to the Flash's powers. Because apparently Flash isn't causing these wormholes. Actually, if anything, he's doing good for the Speed Force. He's being misled, for lack of a better term. Uh, and then at the very end, it leads off with Flash going up against one of his new Rogue Gallery members. So we get Turbine in this, and then we get another Rogue Gallery showing up, which is cool. We're getting rogues bit and bit, bit and bit. Uh, Good. The art was great. The story was great. The little showdown between Turbine and Flash was good. The Rogue that came in at the end is probably my favorite of the Flash's villains, so I like the fact that he's coming in. Um, And the emotion is definitely felt there with everyone thinking Barry is dead. Bad, no bad about this. The Flash has been consistently great throughout the DCU, and there's a good reason for that. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Pick it up. Oh, sorry, my contact is getting loosened up. I'm going to talk about the next two comics together, which would be Justice League Dark and I, Vampire. Part 3 to Rise of the Vampires, and the conclusion to Rise of the Vampires. Uh, if you haven't been following JLD or I, Vampire, basically Andrew Bennett is Slade, and he's basically the Demon Lock, and his Demon Lock prevents Kane, the I guess original vampire, from coming out. And Mary, Queen of Blood, wanted this to happen. If you're getting lost, I'm sorry. Let me simplify this again. Andrew Bennett, vampire. Mary, Queen of Blood, bad vampire. Good vampire, bad vampire. Okay? Good vampire gets killed, badder vampire comes out. So we have bad vampire, badder vampire, and the Justice League Dark working with the vampire slayers that Andrew Bennett worked with in Batman to take out badder vampire. Uh, really, this is more than anything the Justice League Dark stars through most of this, and basically them trying to find a solution to the problem. And we get it. Andrew Bennett does come back. I'm not spoiling anything with you on this. And he comes back with a vengeance. And he pulls a power play that I didn't think was coming, but the fact that it did come, it was actually really good, and it makes the story more and more interesting. Uh, Reviewing these two together, JLD and I, Vampire, good. The story was resolved beautifully. The art from both of them were good. A lot of people complain about the Eye Vampire art, but I like the Eye Vampire art because it kind of it has a very dark, gritty tone to it. Uh, I thought that, like I said, everything was resolved. Even how everything's happening in Gotham, they kind of did a whitewash a bit, but everything got resolved perfectly. I did like that power play. Like I said, the dialogue was pretty good. Bad is in the JLD. Um, there was more and more talks about from Madame Xandu how she's going to do something that's going to cause big repercussions, or everyone's going to hate her, and it's never really truly shown what it is. Is it the return of Andrew Bennett? I think that's what she was going for, but no one can really hate her for that because I mean he got rid of the bad guy, but in the place a bad guy probably came out. So I felt as though they made things a little too overdramatic with Madame Xandu, and her blue little Oompa Loompa friend, or whatever it was she was talking to. And in addition to that, Shade the Change Man disappears. I think he's leaving the team, which on the whole, I didn't care for Shade the Change Man. He seemed interesting, but I don't mind if he leaves the team. But I don't think he'll be gone for long. If they do make him leave the team for good, um, they best replace him with someone. Who? I don't know. But it was almost hinted that Mary Queen of Blood would join the team, but I don't think so. On a whole, 4.5 out of 5 stars for these two. I liked the crossover. I thought it was handled well. I thought it was enjoyable. These two together to get, if you've been reading either two of these comics or both, they're really fun, and I think they're kind of I think it's the black horse of the DC universe. A lot of people say they're kind of the comics that a lot of people wouldn't expect to be really great, but they actually turn out to be really good. So pick them up. Okay, and we're coming to the last two titles. Teen Titans issue number 8. I don't know what's happening in this half the time. It feels as though I skipped an issue. I know I didn't, but it felt like I skipped an issue. Um, Most of it's just the Teen Titans in a head trip, and Lilith, a Teen Titan, is part of the Harvest. She's a bad guy, and she's manipulating the Teen Titans and forcing them to put this armor on and trying to make them into Ravengers. Um, yeah, that's the story. Good. We get a bit of backstory with some of the characters. We get to see into Cassandra Cain's past a bit and exactly what's making her tick. We get to see in, some of the characters that we don't get clear backstories on who or what. We get a little bit more on looking into the past. The art was better in this. I did enjoy the art in this, and Lilith, although I did like her more as a good guy, she's not that bad as a bad guy. Bad. Again, it feels like a missing issue. I could be wrong, but the issue started off in a really awkward position, which really kept you guessing in a bad way throughout the issue. So I didn't really care for that. Uh, uh, yeah, it's hard to really judge this issue because it wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't really good either. I'll give it a solid 3, to be fair. I mean, it was fun and enjoyable, but it still suffers from the fact that I was a little confused during it. I'm sure if I went back and I read Teen Titans issue number 7, I may understand issue 8 a bit more. But I also have a feeling that the crossovers is what's causing this. I'm reading Superboy, but I'm not reading Legion of Superheroes or Legion Lost or whatever the crossover is with them. So maybe it's that. Don't know. I'm sure my reviews for Superboy and Teen Titans are going to be a little messy for the next few weeks because they're doing those crossovers. And wrapping it up this week, we have Superman issue number 8. So Hellspot or Hellspawn, yeah, Hellspawns, uh, gives a little bit more of his backstory, gives him a little bit more of what he wants to do with Superman, and it's Superman. He doesn't want any of it. So the two kind of throw down. It is actually a pretty good fight. And that's really it. This is a throwdown issue between the two of them. Um, Good, bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Hellspawn actually comes off as kind of a cool villain. It was really cool where he's just walking with Superman, and Superman's like, "Are you crazy? I'm not joining you." And Hellspawn goes with his hand, kind of just waves, and Superman gets thrown into a mountain. This guy is pretty intimidating. Good fight between the two of them. Superman felt in character. Issue ended off pretty good. Bad. Why wasn't this happening in the first story arc? Is Superman's getting better? You know what? I think I figured out what the problem is with Superman. With a lot of the characters, I'll take Batman. Um, I'll take Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and Flash. A lot of the creators feel as though, I mean, when you have those kind of comics, let me organize myself. I'm more organized. The reason why Batman is doing so well is because it's not focusing on reestablishing Batman too much. If it's reestablishing Batman, it's doing it through the works and letting it play out naturally. Same thing with Flash. Same thing with Aquaman. Same thing with Green Lantern. They're focused on telling good stories. With Superman, I feel as though they're more worried on trying to clean Superman up, trying to fix Superman. You don't need to fix Superman. Just tell a good story. You don't have to go back and tell me how he met with Brainiac and how he met up and how Lois and him are together or they are together or what else. Just tell me a good story. And I think that's what was hurting Superman early on. This issue is good. I think it was better than last issue. And I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I actually really enjoyed this issue. It was pretty fun. It's particularly the fight between Hellspot and Superman. But that's the thing. I think DC feels as though they need to fix something that's not broken. The concept of Superman is so beautiful and so good. All you need to focus on is writing good stories. Just write a good story. It doesn't matter if Superman's married or not. It doesn't matter if Superman has this unique backstory or not. Just write a good story. And I think they're too focused on trying to make Superman appealing rather than focusing on writing the good story. But in saying that, this issue was pretty good, and I recommend people get it. So that is my comics for this week. Fury of Firestorm came out this week, but I'm not going to be picking it up for a bit because, like with some other comics, Fury of the Firestorm, I kind of read on the side. So this week kind of was on the average level. Nothing really wowed me. But some comics were really good, so I will go into more of that later in my Andrew Cutter Picks of the Week. For that, I would like to hear your opinions, what you thought about this week, and as always, this is Andrew saying peace out for now.